We ready, Jeremy?
This conference will now be recorded.
That is so funny.
All right. I'd like to call to order the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Board meeting for Tuesday, May 18th, 2021. If you have a roll call, please.
I'm Mark Castonia,
Here.
Tracy Flukie,
Here.
Aideen Hess,
Here.
Deborah Lundberg,
Here.
Heidi Murphy,
Here.
Chris Zerbel,
Here.
Donovan Miller.
Here. Wow.
Yay.
Well, that's
That's it,
only
huh?
7. That's awesome.
Number 3, Pledge of Allegiance. Item number 4, action on the agenda. Does anybody have any corrections or additions or comments concerning the agenda?
Mark, on the department reports, is that supposed to be for 2021 instead of 2022?
I would suspect yes. Let's-
Sue, are you getting ahead of yourself again?
Really? Is that what it is? Oh, I see.
It'd be 9B.
Yeah,
Oh,
thank
yeah.
you. I don't remember putting that on there. I'll have to speak to Terry on that, but,
I think that,
oh, it's the May, yes, yes, to answer you, Dean, it is the 2021 May
I
department
know,
report.
I know I've been gone for a while. I didn't know if I was gone that long.
okay. Anything else? In that case, I will entertain a motion to accept as amended.
I make a motion to accept the amendment.
Second.
Any further comments? All those in favor of the agenda as amended, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item number 5, election of a park board officers. It's for a election of a board chairperson and a vice chairperson. And I think we'll do those individually.
Do we need to do, I'm sorry, the written, oh, I'm sorry, never mind. We're good.
All right. We're open for nominations for the chairperson.
So we haven't done this for a while. What typically has been done historically at the park board level is what Vice Chair Castonia has done is he's opened up the floor. So anyone who's up here can nominate anybody to be,
Including themselves.
including himself, to be the chair for
Chairperson,
the
yeah.
upcoming term. And then when the nominations are complete, then discussion can happen and you can have, Mark would call for a vote. And then once that is done, the same thing would happen with the vice chair position.
So do we have any nominations?
I'll nominate myself if,
Okay.
I'd like to nominate Tracy Flukie.
Shit. Are there any other nominations? Is there any discussion on the nominations?
Dean, I appreciate your nominating me. I would like to decline just because I'm the chair of the Bike Ped Committee and would rather not be a chair of 2 committees. And I would love to see Chris be chair.
So you're removing yourself from the,
Yes, please.
okay. Any other nominations or? Well, normally it would take a vote by ballot, but seeing as how we're a small group here, I think we can probably do it by a voice vote. There are 7 possible votes. it has to be approved by a majority, which would be 4 votes. So let us say all those in favor of Chris Zerbal as chair signify by saying yes.
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 And all those who are opposed to Chris being chair signify by saying no. I don't hear any no's, so it looks like we have a majority. So Chris is the new chairperson. Okay.
Congratulations. Chris, you can now do the vice chair nomination.
Oh, yeah.
I have a question, if you don't mind. Were there only 4 votes that I heard? Did others abstain? Just, I would like a vote count, if you could. Just name them. I have Tracy, Mark, Chris, Aideen Hess, Heidi, did you?
Yes.
Yes,
I'll do
Donovan,
yes, sure.
and Deb. Okay, I'm sorry, I just didn't hear everyone. Thank you. Okay, I'm sorry.
So, okay, so I take over from
Sure
here?
thing.
Okay,
You can do the vice chair.
okay.
You want to change chairs?
I took yours last time. Okay, so we'll take nominations for vice chair of Park Board. I'll start off by nominating Mark Estonia. If I can do that as,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Any other nominations?
Any other nominations? Okay, we'll take a vote by, as Mark Castonia as vice chair. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, passes. Mark Castonia as vice chair of Park and Board. Park and Rec.
Nice.
All right, we got through that all right, huh?
Okay. Comments from the public. Must be limited to items not on the agenda, must state name and address, limited to 5 minutes. Board's role is to listen and not discuss item. Personal issues cannot be discussed. The board is not able to take action at this meeting. Any comments from the public? Nobody's present. Any comments from the public? I don't know if we've got anybody. Any comments from the public? Okay. Moving on, written communications. I believe I did see a couple.
Oh, here they are, Chris, I'm sorry. There's one more that's not in the packet, and that's
Okay.
this.
This one
Those are
here?
in the packet, this one's.
This one. Okay. All right. We've got one from Laura Sisler. Sue, thanks again for helping with the trail pass. My daughter was thrilled to receive it yesterday. Wanted to also pass along favorable comments toward the village. I had stopped in for a printout of the village-wide rummage sale and asked for extra copies for neighbors who would inevitably ask. As it happened, I was also able to provide a few copies to older out-of-towners who had stopped me for directions. Of course, the village can't provide everyone with a printout, but these folks were impressed by the hard work of the village in its coordination. Know that it was appreciated. Laura Sisler. Another one, Sue. Thanks a bunch for setting up the swimming pool dates. Just FYI, our rummage sale worked out, got rid of items we longer needed, plus we sold my husband's Harley motorcycle we had plans to sell. That's a high roller. So this worked out great for us. Plus my daughter got rid of some items also. Thanks again, Marie. P.S. We think we might do this next year. Also, regarding the rummage sale from Megan Hawley. Hello, I have serious safety concerns regarding the village-wide rummage sale. My neighborhood was overrun with cars and people, cars parked on both sides of the street, People walked in the middle of the street with little awareness of their surroundings. Cars ran through stop signs. I tried to ride my bike through my neighborhood and felt unsafe. This tradition should stop. It's simply not safe. Megan Hawley. Are these items we can comment on or not?
I think you can comment on them, you just can't take action on them.
Yeah, okay. That weekend, I think we should do it. I know we should stop it, but wow, people are, I say it every weekend to my wife, my customers at the store, be careful, because yeah, people are, rounders are, the laws are out the door.
No holds bar.
Yeah. Careful. I think we should maybe possibly look into putting out a village-wide communication to our residents just to be careful on that weekend. I've done it on my Facebook page. Okay. Hi, Sue. I have catered there in the past, so I do not need the link. I just wanted to check on freezer space because we never used the kitchen in past caterings. We probably won't this time either, except for the freezer and put their leftovers in the refrigerator. Thanks for your help. This is why we love catering to your facility, because you are so accommodating, and I always pass that on to my clients. And that's by Amy Kudik, catering manager at Conup Catering.
Good job, Sue.
What's that?
Good job, Sue. Sue does a great job of dealing with all the different groups that come in.
Thank you.
All right, action on consent agenda. The Park and Rec Board meeting from April 20th.
Chris, you skipped B on
Oh,
written
annual distribution
communications.
of public officials, employees' code of ethics. Sorry. I believe this was passed out to all village staff and officials and employees. If there's any questions or comments?
Chris, I have a question on page 14 of the policy.
Okay.
At the bottom, it indicates that there is to be some indication by the public officials or the employees of the village that they have understood and they read the policy. Is there a form that should be going with this that each individual that is new should sign that they have read and understand the policy? And that is on file? Because I think I recall when I first started in 2015 that I submitted a form.
I believe, Dean, that we will get a form of some type. They sent this out early, and I had talked to the clerk, and she said everyone will get a form to fill out. So that you should receive that shortly, is my understanding.
Okay, thank you.
So this wasn't, passed out yet to employees or anything to this point? Is that what I understand?
No, I guess the question that I had is there an actual form that goes with this policy?
Right.
Yes, and
Should that be
will,
with, this?
they wanted to get this out early so everyone have a chance to read it. So they would like everyone to read it, understand it, ask if there's any questions. And then my understanding is then they will give us the form that we have to complete, and that we will get back to the clerk. So you will be receiving a form, and I'm not sure exactly when, but that's at our last meeting, that's what they had said. And we had the ethics stuff on there as well.
Okay, because I've already filled out a form, would I be filling out another one?
I believe so. I think it's every year, isn't it, Chris? Do you
That I
know?
remember, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's every year.
Yeah.
So you should get another form.
All right, well, I never got one last year,
No,
or the year before.
yeah, so you just got to do it again.
Okay.
You slid by.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on. Okay, now we got action on consent agenda.
Make a motion to accept.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Can I just ask one question quick, please? Under 7A, the consent, again, action on consent agenda. For the mover, it lists both Dean and I on that. Is that because we both said it at the same time? I didn't know if that was an error, that it was one or the other of us, and then the person I second was Justin. So it would be on the box,
What's that?
Sue?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It would be the boxed area under 7A, the motion,
Okay, let
and
me,
it has Dean and I both doing the motion.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, what page are you on, Tracy? I'm so sorry. Bottom
It would be
second, oh,
on the minutes, it would be the second page of the minutes from the April 20th,
okay,
and it's item 7A. And
Packet
it's
page
the,
17.
thank you. 7A. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Maybe she heard both of us because I was remote for the last several months.
yeah, so maybe she just
I
got us
do
both.
have, yes, I do have that listed, and even up in the motion area.
If there only is to be one motioner,
Right.
I'll be more than glad to remove myself to make it easy.
Well, let me listen to it too tomorrow. I can
Okay.
listen to that. Sometimes it's here, but hard to hear because of the virtuals.
Yeah,
So I will,
okay.
either
yeah,
way, I'll get that cleared up.
Okay, I just
Okay.
didn't know if you could have two for that or not, so I just was a question.
Okay,
So,
so we have a motion and a second with the change. So we're changing that, removing,
how did Joel
yes.
make that motion, Tracy?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the change.
we have a second.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right, action items. A, action on Ashwaubenon Arena Pure Bid Tab recommendations. Oops, no, never mind. I'm not doing that. There we go. Update on possible action on capital projects and 2022 capital project budget submission planning. Rex?
All right, so typically in August is when we submit our budget recommendations to administration for each department, each area of responsibility that department heads are in charge of. And what I want to do is I want to make sure we're ahead of the game a little bit here for discussion, because sometimes some of these items require pricing, exploration, costs, so on and so forth. And sometimes that can take, certainly weeks, if not months, to get the answers that you need. So what I wanted to do is talk a little bit about, number one, where we are with some of the current projects that we're working on, and where they are listed in the corp in the 5/10-year plan. And then, some thoughts on the 2022 budget and what everyone's druthers are for project submission. I've got some of my thoughts, and I'll just bring those out as a starting point in a few minutes here. Currently, what we're working on, and if you want to grab your corp plan, that's the colored sheet with the blue, green, purple, yellow. It's probably the easiest one to start with. That's one that we all have worked on, or a number of you have worked on in the past to come up with, in prioritizing them from what the residents' comments were, both written and with our in-person meetings. So in the year 2020, you can see a lot of the work involves what we're kind of doing a lot of stuff with right now, extending the Ashwaubenon River Trail. We're currently working with Grafe Engineering on the bridge, on the fishing pier bump out. We've held off on continuing the trail around the park. That would be another phase, or it was thought that would be better to be another phase rather than trying to do that all at once. So the first two in 2020 are being currently worked on. The fourth one listed, extend the crusher dust walking path from the cricket field. We actually had time in the fall last year. We had a little bit of time, a couple of week window, and that's already completed. That went to, I believe, Park and Village Board, and we got to go ahead to expend some park development funding, and that was done. So that one, actually, I don't want to say get crossed off the list, but that'll be marked as completed when the core plan here gets updated. 2021, you can see there are a number of projects that are listed. Technically, supposed to be done this year. None of them are being worked on this year because last year with COVID, everything was pushed. Basically, all municipalities, not only ours, were in the boat of we didn't know what any kind of revenue was going to be, how long COVID was going to last, what the financial situation of each municipality was going to be. So the edict was to only do necessary projects, required projects that had to be done, and to kind of hunker down and not do a lot of the other stuff, which is what happened. So that's why you're seeing, the 2020 projects really being done this year. So everything's kind of been pushed a year. In 2021, which is supposed to be next year, you can see some of the things that are up for discussion. Playground structure, build/plan the restroom facility with potential for a splash pad addition at Fort Howard Park. The smaller one replaced the drinking fountain at the sports complex with a multi-level fountain that's handicap accessible for people that may be in wheelchairs or for kids that may want to get a drink of water. The one we have right now, they're not able to. Clipstein Park, we have a real nice fitness trail around there right now. We had talked in the past about getting an electronic fitness station, which would play in hand with what kids are kind of used to right now, where there's a lot of running between different posts and different bars where they work up a good sweat. And Tracy, you may know what I'm talking about. I know.
No, I was just going to ask you if you could explain what electronic fitness center is. I haven't heard of that.
Sure. So they actually have one in Alloway at the Miracle Field at their playground. It's a big concrete pad, and this is an example of one anyway. And there's different, basically posts all around. Think of a clock, only not, there's maybe 8 stations, and you start the game. You push how many players there's going to be, and the kids have to run in sequence between the different buttons, and they're timed. So it's a sprint between the different posts where they have to punch the button, and then say they're the red person, and then they have to look around to the other post, see what post is illuminating the color red, and they have to run to that post, and so it's a speed game.
Cool.
So we had done, we being our staff, have seen these at some of the Wisconsin Park and Recreation conferences before, and I'll be honest with you, it looked fun, but I tried it, and within like 3 minutes, literally we're dripping sweat, because you were moving so fast. They're really fun. So it was a thought that might be a potential addition for the fitness trail around Clipstein Park, which could also be used by some of the PE classes potentially, for the teachers coming out of Parkview. And if that is something that you'd like more information, I can certainly bring it to the next park board meeting that we have, pictures and information on that type of thing. But that's what the thought was on that. And that can actually be potentially purchased with park development funds. I don't even think it needs to go through the regular general fund budget process. It could be approved to be bought through park development funds because of I think enrollment is fairly high. It's additional playground equipment on top of what we already have. It's not a replacement of playground equipment. So that's eligible for park development funding.
And it's only 42,000?
The equipment is 42,000. The station would be, that's what the cost was when this was given to us about 2 years ago.
Okay,
when
that
this was
seems
done.
cheap.
And then what would wind up happening is we would still need to do our own interior work, which is concrete, running it's a very low impulse electrical line that would need to be used to run, to give it power. So you'd probably want to add, I don't know, maybe another 10,000 on there.
Yeah.
I'm guessing a couple thousand for the slab and and gravel, and, you know, a couple thousand for WPS to run an additional electrical line off of our power box. So that's one of a potential project. We've pushed a couple playground structures back. The next playground that's up is the main structure. Smith Park has a couple different structures. The newer green one that's there, green and brown, is specifically targeted for the 3 to 5 year old age group. A lot of playground equipment, there's a lot of different types of playground equipment. So let me set the stage because I know we've got a couple new members here. There's the 3 to 5 year old, which has obviously different features, and there's height limitations for how high the decking and things can be for the younger kids, for the toddlers, if you want to go that way. So there's the 3 to 5, and then there's the 5 to 12 year old, which is what we have in a number of other parks, Sand Acres and Mike Van, where they're taller, they're towers, you've got a little more sense of adventure / imagined danger, you know, where you're balancing and things like that. So that's the 5 to 12 age group. And then if you don't want to separate them, depending on what a municipality's budget is, you can get a combination, which is basically a 2 to 12 or a 3 to 12 type of structure, which, you know, is for basically all ages, but it doesn't have as many of those adventure type height options, you know, included in the piece of equipment. So what we have at Smith, the main structure, which I would probably say is you know, with some of the balancing thing, a 3-year-old couldn't go on it. I'm going to probably surmise that it's a 5 to 12 structure.
The green one?
It's the very faded orange one.
Okay.
The orange and brown one, which is behind the
Yep.
green one. So that's the older structure. That's, I'm going to guess, vintage, maybe 91, 92, 93, right around in there. Just looking at the components that are there, I'm pretty sure that's the time frame it's from. So we're talking, it's probably going on 30-ish, 25 to 30 years old. Tracy, you might have,
I don't think,
without dating anybody, that might have been under your watch. I don't know.
I think it was in when I got here. I don't think
Oh,
that,
so
I remember putting that one in.
So then it's pre-89,
No, I got here in 93.
93, so it's
Yes.
pre-9, so it
Yeah,
might be
so you're
91,
about right,
92.
yeah.
Okay. So that's the one we're looking at replacing, something for the older kids, the 5 to 12 age group, because we already have a very nice toddler one that has the little hut roofs and things like that on it for the 3 to 5 age group. So that is the next one in line in terms of age that needs to be replaced in our park system with the number of playgrounds that we have. So that one is coming up.
Where would you locate the band shell at Clipstein? Do you have a site for that you're looking at?
The original thought was to put it right where the current band concrete slab is right now, which is kind of in the center of the park, just off of the walkway between Parkview and the old community center. So basically, it would be tearing out the old concrete or using that old concrete as like a front area and building it attached to that. And that way, we'd still be utilizing the viewing slab that's there with the tables and so on and so forth. So that's always been discussed. What we have right now, it's working, but it was always a really nice feature or attraction that for years we've talked about putting in a bandstand. So for those of you that have been around, this is the year that, you know, it was plugged in. But again, things can change, and that's why we're talking about this tonight, is just where we want to, you know, shuffle some things around. If you take a look at 2022 and 2023, some things that are in those years, again, I just said we shuffle some things around. We're already working on one of those, or two of those. Sherwood Forest, the walking path around the pond, we've already been working with Stantec currently on doing some wetland delineation and figuring out, or meeting with a boardwalk manufacturer out there, which would be placed on top of the wetland. So we're hoping to get that done this year. And then in 2023, it talks about the Main Street Trail. And we are currently working on an extension on that We're hoping to bid that out within a month or two and have the Main Street Trail extension done between Sand Acres Drive and South Ridge Road. That's where basically, that's what we have the time to do, that's what we have the money to do, is that section. We've already expended some money out of park development and TIF 4 to relocate utility lines along that stretch. So right now, we're just waiting for one more right-of-way agreement to be signed by one of the property owners, and we'll be submitting our CSM, which is a certified survey map, to the county. Once that gets approved, then we can bid the thing out. So that's already been moved up to this year. All right, a lot of stuff going on. So that's the corp plan. Also included is this lovely, if you're over the age of 45, you probably need to get your cheaters out to read some of the small print on this. But this is what's called our 5-year plan. Really, I've tried to make it into a 10-year plan, for future years. And that's basically taking many of the amenities that we have in all of our parks, and there's a life to literally every amenity, whether it be a playground, whether it be a basketball court, whether it be a parking lot, whether it be a drinking fountain, fencing, anything like that. We've tried to put a guesstimate year on when that would be coming up for potential replacement. Now, a lot of this stuff lasts, 20, 30, 40 years. So a lot of it's just a placeholder. That's very fluid in terms of moving back and forth. But some of the stuff on here, obviously, some of it's getting a little long in the tooth. The parking lots at the sports complex are looking a little rough, and obviously there's kind of a playground replacement plan that's included in the 5 or 10 year plan for what playgrounds are coming up down the line. If you're wondering, I think Waterford would be coming up next after Smith Park would be. Since some of them have already been completed, again, this will all be updated for the budget process. You can see like the ASC Plaza remodel is in there, and other things too. So there's a couple documents that we use to take a look at what projects we've got, coming forward on the burner here to submit to administration for consideration budget-wise. We'd love to get them all done. Never enough money to get them all done, as the plan says. So that's why we need to talk about what everyone's druthers are to submit what everyone's thoughts are, and see if there's enough money, with all the other departmental head requests for their projects, what funding is there for park and recreation projects. A challenge still for 2022 will be COVID. We don't know what the village's total revenues will be quite yet. Sounds like it'll be a lot better with the hotels, and there's full capacity at Lambeau Field this year for a lot of the events. So that would be a good thing. There were some other funding sources for a lot of park and rec projects that may not be fully back online. And I'll mention the United Service Agreement dollars. Those might not be there in 2022 either. And that was a source of a lot of project funding for what we have on our list. So there's a couple things to consider. I don't think you need to worry about that. Basically, we just need to figure out what projects do we want to do, and that's what we will submit, and then we'll talk about them internally, administrative-wise, when that time comes along. So that being said, it's a lot of explanation, a lot of talking. What questions do you have, first off? And then after questions, we can talk about, what you guys think some of the next important projects are that we should be submitting based off of the plans that we've got.
I have a question about the splash pad. Why Fort Howard? Like, why was that park picked for a splash pad?
Fort Howard is one of the parks picked, number one, because it has the room for a splash pad. Not a lot of the other parks have room for a splash pad. Sand Acres was always a possibility when we had done a community meeting originally with Sand Acres Park. The residents did not want a splash pad because they thought it would bring in too many people from other areas as the only splash pad in that neck of the woods. So it's kind of a funny story,
I know people who live down
Big-
there, so.
Because, but that
I
was, yeah, that was the reason why, and they said, put the money into really good playground equipment. So Sand Acres now has like one of the best playgrounds around, and a lot of people come from all over because it has one of the best playgrounds around. So, you know, that was the reason originally why the park was designed to not have a splash.
Well, I love a good splash pad.
What's that?
I love a good splash pad.
Yeah, yeah. well,
Seymour has a really nice splash pad.
Yeah, no,
and I have some envy.
Green Bay's got a number of them. I brought my kids over to the splash pads as well when they were younger, over in the city of Green Bay. So we're looking at Fort Howard. That certainly has the ability. When you're talking a splash pad, you need certain services. You need a pump room, no matter if it's a circulating water or whether it's a pump and dump, where the water comes in, it sprays, and goes right to storm.
Sewer.
So there's a couple different ways to do it. And the thought was the two parks that we're looking at restrooms at would be Fort Howard because of the amount of pickleball players and the amount of soccer players that are there. It's become a very, very busy park. So it certainly is in line for potentially getting a permanent restroom at Fort Howard. And the same thing is happening at Sand Acres Park. Sand Acres is busy as it is right now. And now there's additional subdivisions that are looking at being built in that neck of the woods, which are going to make it even busier. And these are Ashwaubenon subdivisions. The golf course is going to have an additional 120, 130 homes. And then there's another smaller development that will be happening with another 60 homes right off of Grant Street. So those are all going to put additional pressure on Sand Acres. And I don't know, we already have multiple porta potties there right now. I don't know if we want a whole wall of porta potties. It's probably my biggest complaint I get about Sand Acres is why don't you put a permanent restroom there? I'll get at least a dozen people a year asking me that, minimum.
So is that something that could be done together? Like if you're doing the plumbing for a restroom, can you do like
Well,
water amenities also?
it could be, the restroom in and of itself is literally as expensive as a house. You're probably talking $200,000 to $250,000 for a permanent restroom. And so the thought was when that restroom is built, they could probably add on a small room that in the future, and it could be plumbed because we're already bringing water to the restroom. So it could easily be plumbed to accommodate a splash pad, which would probably be, you know, within the next couple of years after that restroom would be built, if that would be the druthers of the village board based on any recommendations the park board would make.
I think a splash pad would also attract people from out of the area, which you mentioned, but that was concern of people in Sand Acres Park. But then you have to provide parking for them also. And I think the parking around Sand Acres is somewhat limited. I mean, it's a lot of
It is.
street parking.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Fort Howard has, what, two parking?
It's actually got 3 parking lots, but 2 of them would be very close to where the splash pad has the potential to be located, which would be literally adjacent or close by to the picnic shelter that's at Fort Howard Park. It's got that open area there to be able to do it. The water line already runs. There's a major water line that runs right along that pathway. You can see the fire hydrant right there. So the costs, the utility costs to make that happen would certainly, wouldn't be as great as one would normally expect if there weren't anything there already.
Does the splash pad increase liability insurance then, or is that
It would need to be added to
a
the
policy?
village's, insurance program, but in and of itself, it's not, a splash pad is just, as you know, it just goes onto the ground. There's no like drowning possibility or anything like that. So the liability really would be minimal. The biggest safety concern when you're dealing with a splash pad is the concrete surface that you pour, that the kids are running around on. You need to make sure it's
Not-
rough enough that they don't slip, but also smooth enough that it's not going to tear their feet up. So, and that's a real, that's the biggest liability is the slippage
it.
potential on there.
Rex, do we, the court plan, I don't recall, do we get together every year and update this as a group? I know we're kind of talking about it now, but it seems like last year, the year before, we
We update, the
we
core
had a
plan gets
number of
updated
meetings.
every 5 years.
Every 5 years.
Every 5 years, and the reason, one of the reasons we have the corp is it's a good tool to help guide the village, but quite honestly, it's also a wonderful tool. You have to have this comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. You have to have it when you are applying for Wisconsin DNR grants. You need to have a core plan in place, and any project that you are applying for a grant for needs to be in your core plan. So that's it's one of the big benefits of having a core plan. If you're applying for grants, you've got to have this. It's a good tool to guide, for different projects. And then a core plan obviously has to be approved by the village board, so that way also the DNR feels comfortable that some of the things that are in the core plan have already been discussed and talked about by a governing body, that, what the DNR doesn't want to have happen is people applying for grants, they get awarded a grant, and then the community that supposedly is going to do the project says, well, I never knew about that project. So typically if it's in a core plan, it's gone through that legislative process for at least people know about it. And in concept, things have been approved ahead of time. So, other questions about either of the plans or any of the projects? And we could take a project that is in like 2028 and say, you know what, we need to move this up. It doesn't have to be what's, right on here. If needs or demand of the community, says that, you know what, we need to move this up. So, but if everything remains static, what we have is kind of a general guideline that we're trying to follow based on the discussion that everyone had, at the park board level when the plan was put together.
Rex, I have a question about Valley View. I know we moved the parking structure over to Argonne, and because of the daycare center, do we no longer consider Valley View one of our parks?
Well, Valley View, it's listed as a park in our park system.
Okay.
And we moved Valley View Park Program over to Argonne this year, just due to COVID, to try and separate the groups out. The park program kids and the day camp kids, and we've got between 50 and 55 kids in day camp. That's a lot of kids mixing together, and quite honestly, it's been very difficult to keep them separated and to know who's who when everyone's playing. So that's one of the reasons that the park program was moved for at least this year over to Argonne. And it could certainly be moved back to Valley View in the future. But in regards to what I think your question is that like truly one of our parks? It's school district property.
Okay.
It is school district property, and I'll be honest, I'm always hesitant to have big projects put on school district property, because if something would happen in the future where the school district needs additional property or additional land, or they need additional space to do something that the school district wants to do, our stuff goes away. So then we've spent money on a particular park where potentially we didn't, I don't want to say we wasted it, but, I will use, to a smaller extent, I'll use Cormier School as an example. Cormier School, we had put a fair amount of money rehabbing the baseball diamond there. And the outfield fencing, we moved it so that it wouldn't conflict with the snow piles that were being moved with the parking lot clearing, and we kind of redid some dugout areas, and all of a sudden the school district wants to put in a new bus route because they don't want the buses on Broadway, which is a safety hazard. It certainly is. If you've ever been by there at school, the buses are taking up the lane, and now you've got people going around them in the oncoming traffic lane. So I get what they're trying to do, but basically we were told your ball diamond's going to go away. So they can do that. It's their property, even though it's listed as a park. So in terms of putting things on school district property, I think we just need to be cautious and be cognizant of the fact that whatever we do could easily change, and we would have no control over it. No issue doing some trees, The playground that's at Valley View is actually put in by the school district. That was fundraised by the PTO. That's not, I mean, we use that as like a park playground, but it's the school's playground. So, and that's why, I mean, we'll plant trees there to make it more park-like. But that's, you know, that's kind of where we are.
Will that affect Pioneer in the future?
Hopefully not. The wood area, the woodsy area, I guess, at Pioneer is school district property, which our playground is in. And then Diamond Number 1 and Diamond Number 2 are also on school district property. There's like a swale or a gully that goes east-west on that park. That's literally what the dividing line is for district property versus village property, is that little gully that's in there. So I don't, you don't, it's doubtful that it would affect it, but, you never want to say never, because something could happen where the school district needs additional land to do something. You know what I mean? And so then we'd have to try and work something out and vacate our any amenities that we've put in.
Rex, seeing that we just worked on this core plan with community involvement and so forth in 2020, we should probably be looking at prioritizing for this budget submission process, maybe taking a look at 21, 22, maybe even 23 of those 3 years there, and, take a look at a priority of those 3 years and pick maybe what we see as the top 5 choices for each of us as far as the board, and then give that some real serious consideration at the next board meeting.
That's a good idea, Dean. I was kind of thinking of some along the same lines. I was going to ask everybody if they had a chance to look this over. And if not, maybe do a little homework before the next meeting, like Dean said, and maybe everybody come with their top 5, just some notes, and we can spend some time discussing this at the next meeting.
Yeah, I think we did that previously a few years ago.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Is everybody okay with that?
For what years?
Would anyone like any information, since we're here right now, on any of the projects, or for the newer members, the reasoning behind them, why things are being proposed, or anything like that?
That's a good idea, Rex, because we got some new people on the board.
Rex, as far as adding capital projects, you mentioned it a little bit ago, but Sand Acres is potentially going to have the Sand Acres area is going to have 2 new residential developments. Sand Acres Park is getting overrun. So is it something, I don't know what year it would fit in, but something at least to put on our list, a park, a residential park down in the Sand Acres area, whether it's west of that new development, just to put that in and keep that in mind.
I have broached that topic already with some administrative staff. Just because, there's 2 ways we can go with this, Trace, and as you know, we can push everyone to Sand Acres and try and put more amenities in there, or we can try and spread it out a little bit more and have I don't know if we would need as large of a park, but potentially, to the west of the currently planned developments, we could do, whether it be a pocket park or just a small neighborhood type park.
Right.
There's different types of parks, but a smaller park might be another option because of the number of, it depends on what developments continue on to the west, because it seems like it's gone back and forth between commercial and residential, but if it continues to be residential, that's another option, is to work with a future developer about putting a park in on any land that's out there. And there's a couple different options to do that. I mean, there's some areas that might not be buildable housing-wise out there that could be used as whether it be a passive park or a little more quiet type of park, or it could be working with the developer where there's some land that's dedicated or even purchased from the developer with park development funds specifically to put in a park. So there's a couple different ways to get a new park built when a developer comes in with a particular plan.
Is there any information available about those residential developments online to find like where they're going to be and what they're going to look like?
I'm
Or is
sorry.
it all very preliminary right now?
To do what?
Like find out where they're going to be, like those residential developments? So I'm a visual person. I need to see it on a map.
Sure.
I'm going to do site visits.
Sure. So you know the golf course that's right
Yeah.
there? So I know in the village board packets, there have been
Okay.
maps of
I'll go look online,
the
yeah.
Highland Ridge development is what it's called?
It's called Highland Ridge?
Highland Ridge.
Okay.
Which is the name of the golf
That's
course.
fancy.
And then there's another development that's listed in the village board minutes that'll have mapping. It's called Putt Meadows. So there's two different developments that are
Right.
going to be happening there. One's about 120, 130 unit development. The other one is about a 60 unit development.
Okay.
And those maps are going to be there. Basically, Highland Ridge is, if you take the golf course as a whole, the whole northern half is going to become a housing development. And the golf course will be cut in half, and the southern half will be turned into, will just be basically a 9-hole golf course. There's a number of streams that run through there, creeks, tributaries, whatever you want to call. A lot of potentially the southern part of that golf course, as well as some of the property to the west is going to be considered wetland, where it's just not going to be buildable. And that potentially can be an option, whether it be trails or a passive walking area, or maybe it'd be big enough to put in a little playground area somewhere, where.
So something similar to like Hidden Valley or something, or Sherwood?
It would probably not be as woody as Sherwood
Okay.
is. It's more open in those
I'm
areas.
just having, I can't visualize it right now, so we're going to go for a car ride.
And you know what? And with that request, if you could just make note of that request in the minutes, Sue, and when we talk about projects coming up at the next meeting, I'll have some aerial maps. I don't know, Jeremy, are you able to
Pull up
Are
the,
you able to jump onto Brown Dog potentially and show an aerial view of that area? If you want to hold on a second, we'll get it up for you.
I mean, I owe Fort Howard a visit this weekend also, because I've been there, but I'm not visualizing. So
No.
I need to go do that.
Rex, is that golf course about 80 to 100 acres?
I couldn't tell you, Dean. I don't know what the full size. I know, I don't work with the developer on those. Typically Aaron Schutte, our community development director, does that. Yeah, I'd probably say it's about the size of Ashwaubenon. Ashwaubenon is probably about 75 or 80
right.
acres, give or take. And then I'm going to say you're probably pretty close to that for the overall development.
Is it a private golf course?
Is that?
Is it private or public?
It's private.
Private.
Privately owned.
Oh, it's private?
Privately owned, but
Oh, that's a public, isn't it?
public golf course.
Well, it's owned privately.
And anybody can go?
Right, but anybody could go, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's a walk-in. As long as you got money,
Yeah.
here you go.
And extra balls for hole
I
number
say,
17.
what about clubs? Are clubs necessary? They have golf carts. That's what I'm there for.
The waterfall hole is a killer.
Is there any way you can blow that up a little bit, Jeremy? Stand that.
Sorry, I'm taking too long, guys. Mary would have.
You want me just to bring up the plat? Let me just try to see here. There you go. There you go.
Figure out where
Good,
we
that's
are.
good. So, all right, so this area here is Sand Acres Park.
Okay.
This is Sand Acres Drive going all the way down. And this is Highland Ridge Golf Course. Right? Very good. So I'd say probably from right around here, take this and just move it across. All this area up on top is going to be the Highland Ridge development. That's going to be the 100 or the 60, no, the 100.
132.
132, thank you, Tracy.
Mm-hmm.
The 132 home development. roughly just north of where Ridge Road comes out. Draw a line across there, that's all going to be developed.
Just the golf course portion?
No, just the golf course.
Yeah, okay.
This will be turned into a 9-hole golf course for the time being. This property right here, see the square, little color variation here. This is going to be 3 Putt Meadows, and this is where the additional 60 homes.
Okay.
You're going to have about 132 up there and another 60 here, in addition to everything that's going on over here. This is still all up in the air, what's happening over here. You can see some tributaries going through here. A lot of it's low, so it's going to be, some will be developable and others might not. But that's all for a developer. Nothing happens unless someone thinks they can
Make something of it.
make something up. But you have to plan for the future. And so if we had another park, if we did, I really don't know where, again, we need to wait to see what happens here. And what happens here is it stay a 9-hole golf course, just change something else. It could be here, you could have something, in this area. We're not real sure, and again, Sand Acres Park would be over there. See where Sand Acres is, so,
Yeah.
Somewhere in here probably is where an additional, if we were to even consider something like that, or the village board is willing to entertain that, this is probably where it would be. And again, that would be part of a developer's agreement of how that would work out with the developer, whether land would be given, whether land would be purchased. If land was purchased, it would be through probably park development funds. That's what park development funds are made to do. For those of you who are new, park development funds are gotten from when a building permit is pulled. Part of the building permit requires money go into the park development fund for additional amenities based on new development. So just because someone sells a piece of property or, it changes hands, the park development fee is only collected at the time of building. For a single family development, off the top of my head, I want to say we're around $974 per, it hasn't changed in years. It was a healthy amount. It's always been a healthy amount. But it's per unit, probably just under $1,000, basically. And then if it's a multi-unit, like apartment building, it's probably about $564 per unit, if it's 4 units or more. So we've used that, obviously. It's a wonderful tool to develop our park system and to be able to build our trail system and so on and so forth. With the additional usage that's coming in, it's a really nice tool to have, and it's been used that way. And that's what's partially funding the West Main Avenue Trail. If we continue to move forward with the Ashwaubenon River Bridge, that park development will be used a lot for that. It can be used to purchase parkland. It can be used for utilities. It can be used for playground equipment, not replacement of playground equipment, but new playground equipment that is needed because of the additional pressure on a park, because of the additional new development that's happening. So it's kind of a play on words there a little bit.
So in other words, if you're looking at about 200 homes, an estimate, you're looking at about roughly $200,000.
Yep. That would build the restroom, pretty close to it. If that's the route you want to go. The other option too is in here, we've also talked about having some senior fitness equipment put in at Sand Acres, because you've got Woods Edge, which is technically not a senior development, but I mean, for the older family, maybe, not too many families are living back in that development. So the thought was, a lot of people would be using our trail system in that neck of the woods. And it'd be, potential to put in some fitness equipment at Sand Acres Park, different fitness stations for the older adult. So I know we've talked about that before, and I believe that's in the plan as well. coming up fairly soon, that park development could be used for. Because fitness equipment really falls into the same category as the playground equipment. It's just playground equipment for older adults. Other questions?
I have a question on another potential capital item, and I don't know if this would be capital or not, Rex. With the expansion of the Ashwaubenon Trail, so, through Alden Station and then going over the bridge, the entrance that comes off Broadway right now, it's very difficult to see that sign because the sign faces, it faces out to it faces north. Wait a second, let me think about this.
What sign are we talking about?
So Ashwaubenon Trail, where you can get on Ashwaubenon Trail from Broadway. So it's just to the north of that substation, the WPS substation.
Oh, yeah. I
There's
know.
a trail sign there, but it faces west. So you can't really see it when you're traveling because you're traveling up and down Broadway and it's going north and south. So the trail, you can't see access very well to that trailhead there.
We can
So
flip that.
if you could flip it, but then you're going to have to put another side on it because it's one-sided. So if you flipped it so it's facing, so you
No,
can see it north and
that's a good-
south.
Yep, no, that can easily be added on to any kind of capital project plan.
Okay, so that was my request because that trail I think is going to get busier when it's extended through Alden Station, and to have that access point more visible for people as they're moving north and south on Broadway, I think would
It
be
is going to
good.
get busier, especially if that bridge goes through. It'll be fun to see coming up in the next 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
To see how everything develops out there. But I think that's going to be a really heavily used trail
Yep.
with multiple housing developments.
Yeah.
Okay, so Chris, I guess I would, for anybody, if there's other questions, I'll be happy to try and answer them. Otherwise, the way, I can stand pat and just, let you guys take a look at the things, and then we would pick this discussion back up at the next meeting in terms of, deciding on like the top 5 projects to submit and see what funding is available to try and get those off the ground.
This chart is current as of today, is that correct?
Yeah, I will say, like I mentioned before, in 2020, the Extend Crusher Dust Trail,
Yeah,
that's already completed. So
Yeah.
cross that one off your list.
okay.
And then if you go down to 2020, and then the bridge stuff, the first 2, do the pedestrian bridge and the fishing bump out, that's in the works, it's being worked on already.
But all,
I think for the continued trail around the park, I think we need to finish the bridge before we go.
yeah,
Right.
DNR doesn't like to have multiple projects going on at the same time, and that's another one that would probably need some type of DNR funding assistance potentially. And then in 2022, if you're doing any notes, the Sherwood Forest walking path is already being worked on. And in 23, the Main Street Trail is already being worked on. So those are probably ones that we don't need to at least talk about, right now for this next budget cycle.
a lot of those are still open items though, even though they're just being worked on, so to speak.
Correct. Which is the only one that's truly completed right now is the Sports Complex Trail.
Yeah.
That was done this past fall.
Deb had asked which years to prioritize, but you had said you can look at all years. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, if there's a new trend or if, again, these are all kind of prioritized already from what we did 2 years ago. But if you feel something really needs to be moved up, I mean, that can be discussed. We can trade places, one project versus another project. That can easily be done. We can talk about that at the next meeting if someone has that idea.
Another thing too, Rex, for the new people, for each one of the years, we did not prioritize them, I don't believe. Well, just take 2021, the very first one there wasn't necessarily our number 1 priority. We just plugged them in for the
Correct.
year.
We just plugged them in. There was no priority within each year.
If everybody wants to take a look at this then for the next meeting and just jot some notes, maybe like somebody suggested, take our top 5 or so for everybody, or if you have a top 3, whatever it is, and we can streamline that a little bit, get some good thoughts going, good ideas going. Like Rex said, with trends, everything has changed in the last year. And
Yes.
trends have changed, and they've changed permanently, some trends. So this might change.
Yeah, one of the trends well, I don't see if you call it a trend, is people are gathering more in the parks, more than I pre-COVID. I mean, you see groups of people slinging their lawn chairs, and I mean, in Clipstein Park last summer, and it's already starting this year. There's multiple groups out there already this year. Literally every day you'd see 3 or 4 or 5 groups of between 5 and 10 people just in little huddles all the way around, and they're just, it's like a coffee clutch, it basically is what it is. It's a meeting spot. Wonderful to see. So people were definitely using the parks more than ever. And I don't know how much that's going to go away. You know what I mean? A lot of the fast food restaurants where maybe like people used to be groups that met in McDonald's, and got their coffee and they sat in the corner of McDonald's for, hours and just talked. Well, those still aren't open yet. You know what I mean? I think, and who knows, if even though many people are getting their COVID shots, not everyone will. And a lot of people, I think, will just think, maybe let's just meet outside in the open air a little bit more. I think that's going to stay. I think that, so one of the things that we've talked about, and I've certainly thought about a little bit more, is having what kind of gathering areas do we want to make a permanent gathering area in any parks? Do we want to expand our shelters to include like some extra concrete or spot for tables or anything like that? Is anything like that needed, or do they just want to go out into the grass areas? There's different things, but we've always talked about how do we get more adults into our parks, and this has shown us why we need to do it. They're gathering spots to get people out into the fresher air and not in enclosed quarters. So is there any amenities that we could be putting into our parks that enhance that experience of groups of people coming and just kind of hanging out?
So is that something you want us to kind of jot notes down for our next meeting?
Yeah, if anyone has any ideas, some of the stuff is already in here, like we talked about expanding shelter number 1 and 2 a little bit, with additional tables, instead of just having them under the shelter, have some tables under. And the other thing too is a lot of people don't like the heavy tables anymore. They like things that move around. Before COVID, we were going to order a bunch of just outdoor simple cafe type chairs that you would see, like in, it sounds silly, but you'd see in like a little Paris cafe or something like that, where it's just street chairs where people can just move them around how they want. And then about a year ago, again, right before COVID, our village manager at the time gave me a couple articles of New York City about how they literally ordered these special chairs. They put them in the parks, and people were using them like crazy. And you know what? I ordered 6 of them about 2 or 3 weeks ago. These chairs, are taking them out of my own money. We're going to put them in front of the community center. They're much more easy to move around than some of these big lunky things, which not everyone can move, which are some people like a more sturdy chair. So those will definitely be used, but now I've also ordered some little more portable chairs, and it'll be interesting to see how those migrate. If they stay in front of the community center, if those wind up, out in the park more, or what happens. So different ideas like that, I guess, is kind of what I think would be good for discussion. When you think of trends, that's kind of like, well, that's what are your observations of what's happening out there? What do you think people are looking for?
Rex, the pandemic has been a real experiment in social behavior.
Oh.
And as a result of people being cooped up for a long period of time, the natural tendency, I think, is once we're let loose, we would like to gather again like we did in the past. To what extent is to still be determined yet.
Yeah.
once we get back to business as usual, as we did in the past, the gathering trend could change to what it used to be. So,
Hoping not.
the-
It's nice to see a lot of people out.
yeah, so it still remains to be seen really what the outcome will be.
And Dean, I hope you don't mind me saying this or mentioning this in front of the group, but Mr. Hess did a wonderful donation when the community center was built in 2015, 2016, I believe is when it was officially dedicated. The chairs that you see around the fire pit out there and in front, the recycled plastic chairs were made possible with the donation from Dean. And I want to mention, last year, every single day, every one of those chairs was used, every day. I mean, it was a really nice amenity to have. We probably could have used another 20 or 30 of them, last year, but,
Are you suggesting anything, Rex?
No. But what I'm saying is, things like that, I mean, it was, I don't want to say an experiment, but we were hoping when we bought them back in 2015, 16, that, well, let's see what happens. And yeah, they were used, but last year, oh my gosh, every day. And I mean, we found, most of them stay there, but sometimes we found them, out by the concert slab. And I mean, people were moving them wherever, for these group meetings that they were doing. So it's kind of, like you said, interesting social experiments that kind of happened. So you kind of take a look at that and you kind of reimagine, what should we be doing? Where should we be putting some of our focuses on projects? Is this going to continue? Is it not going to continue? Seems like a good idea. I think people liked being out more last year, but will they fall back into their old habits? As COVID, as hopefully some of the COVID concerns get minimized. I don't know.
I had a question on kayak. I think it's 2023 at Ashwaubenon. Is that going to be part of you had just approved for the piers? I'm assuming that's around the boat landing there. Is that where the kayak entrance going to be?
Yes. So the vision is, and again, because the bridge hasn't been officially approved yet or kind of details worked out, I always say it's potential bridge. So I'm always going to take that approach to it. But my personal hope is that that bridge happens, because I think that would be a great amenity for that trail area. Once if that gets approved and if that goes in, then that phase will have a small trail that goes to the north end of the baseball parking lot, kind of where that single porta potty is sitting right now, by shelter number 1. The next phase would be to have a trail that loops around the park. As part of that trail, doesn't have to be part of that, but that's kind of the vision, would be the installation of the kayak launch in the old boat launch area of Ashwaubenon, which would be immediately on the left when you first go in. The channel is not dredged. There is a lot of debris in the channel. There's varying depths that change. So I don't know, the days of having an attendant there and launching your boats out of that area are long gone. But it's a really nice spot for a kayak or canoe launch.
That's why I was wondering. That's the perfect spot.
Yeah. And so the thought would be, with on that ramp that goes in, to anchor a kayak launch where you could walk out there with your kayak and put it into the slip and easily get into it. People use it right now. I mean, I've seen people, what else should you even be saying here? The boat launch is officially closed. So if someone asks us, is that boat launch open? We say, the boat launch is closed. And someone says, well, I've got a kayak. Can I launch my kayak from there? And our response is, the boat launch is closed. If you choose to launch your kayak there, you do so at your own risk, basically. Because they can launch it there. I mean, they can portage their kayak, by the boys' baseball diamond out to the Fox River, and they can launch it from the shore over there. We're not telling people they can't do that, but just, be safe if they choose to do it, wherever they choose to do it from.
Yeah, I'm pretty much at Ashwaubenon every day now with baseball, 8 days a week for sure. So I do see a lot of activity there, and it's in every parking area. So Monday night, we had team pictures, we had T-ball, we had single A, and then Bayport played here, and you could not park around the baseball diamonds, period. So,
Well, it should be exciting at the food truck rally this
and then we got the food truck. Actually, we're sending out, league presidents are sending out to all coaches, prepare your families to find no parking. So
For the late game. The early game will still have parking.
yeah, the late game,
Late
right, the
game's
late
going to be
game.
a little dicey.
So it's awesome to see all the cars there. With this, there's always soccer going on, but then all those other lots are still, there's still activity in them. So it's pretty cool to see.
Yep.
And it's on the weekends and it's on the weeknights. It's during the day. So it's really cool to see.
And in case you're wondering, there's been a lot of areas at the north end of the park. You'll see that they've almost been tilled up and then straw put down. I don't know if you probably noticed that.
Oh, couldn't miss it.
Yeah, you can't miss it. It's fairly large areas. So those areas have all been kind of re-leveled and reseeded as part of the emerald ash borer tree removal, where we had over 100 trees taken down by a particular contractor as part of a grant where they literally took those logs, the trees, and then they brought them over to the river and they loaded them onto barges and barged them up to the mouth of the bay to make some different fish cribs. Well, we had, that's a huge expense. But because of the heavy equipment that needed to be used in the transporting literally whole trees from, by shelter number 2 over to the riverside, there was a lot of ruts that was put into the ground. And a couple different ways you can do it. You can take new dirt and fill the ruts in, or you can literally just basically till the soil and re-level what you have. And that's the decision that the direction we went. So it's all new seed. It probably will take a good part of the summer for that to reseed, but that's what that's all about going on out there, or why that was done, is to re-level everything to get rid of the ruts, which obviously make mowing harder, and it's a safety issue when people are walking and so on and so forth.
With all the trees that were removed, it still looks really nice there. So, I mean, that was a huge amount of trees. It was, it was a shock at first when you saw all the stumps.
Yeah,
Now
there's
the
a lot of
stumps are
people, I
gone.
think, that probably there's still a lot of people that haven't seen how many trees are removed. And there's still more that need to be removed.
Yeah,
There's still a lot of pink and red dots out there.
Once they ground everything up, it looks really nice. So
But
I don't want to say it needed it, but it looks really nice.
we just had a volunteer day. Sorry, this is all be part of our report. But we just had a volunteer day. The Green Bay Packers administrative staff contacted us, and I worked with Amanda Weary, who's one of the public relation people in their office there. And so their administrative staff was at Ashwaubenon last week on Thursday, and there was 3 groups of 10, and they did some invasive species removal, and they did this shoreline cleanup and things like that. But as part of what each group of 10 did, is they also planted trees. As a thank you for allowing them to use our park to volunteer in, they donated enough money for us to purchase 15 pretty good-sized trees, and so those were all planted last week. So, and then I want to say we probably have funds from New Water, enough to I think we're planning at least another 20 or 30 in Ashwaubenon, if not 50, from part of a New Water grant to help, reforest from the emerald ash borer tree removal. And that should be done, a lot of that will be done in the fall. Different trees have different planting seasons. Some you can plant in the spring, some you have to plant in the fall. So the next wave of planting will be in the fall from probably that New Water grant. So there's a lot of, again, we took down 100, there's probably that was just for Brennan, and we probably took down another 100 on our own over the last couple of years, and there's probably at least another 50 to 100 that still need to be taken down. So that's a lot of replanting that needs to be done. And part of our goal too, we're going to be putting some conifers in along the riverfront, along the west side of the park is the homes that are on Broadway, you know, where they were once shielded from all of the baseball complex lighting. Basically, it illuminates their backyard now because there's no, all that buckthorn gone and 3/4 of the trees gone. It's really illuminating their backyards. So it's not going to be a easy process. It's not going to be a quick process, but we're trying to put stuff in along that stretch that will eventually start to shield them from a lot of the overflow lighting again. That's going to be out there.
Well, Rex, a lot of things have changed in that park from the time that I was one of the supervisors in the, I think it was the late 70s. So,
Yeah. Oh, I remember Mr. Caboose. I don't know if you remember Mr. Caboose. Tracy might remember him.
I never saw Mr. Caboose.
So before the cafe was built, they had a train caboose that they sold concessions out of. And the gentleman's name was Bill Sproul. And Bill was known as Mr. Caboose. He ran the concession operations there. He wore train conductor overalls, and it was a circus train theme, which is why the drinking fountain next to the cafe is a hippo.
Yeah.
And we have a lion's head in storage. But there was like dueling drinking fountains on each side of the caboose. But that's why it was a circus train theme.
Was it Mr. Caboose or Captain Caboose? Some reason I remember.
Well, might be,
Caboose.
I might be wrong on that. I just say it was Mr. Caboose because that's how I learned. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I remember going to the caboose when it opened when I was in middle school, when, you know, going to the lake for the first time when it opened up. But
I might be wrong, but it's some reason that popped in my head. I remember.
It rings more of a bell.
Captain Caboose.
Could have been Captain
He was on
Caboose.
TV.
Oh, that was on TV? Okay, that's right.
If you get somebody old enough, they can remember.
Oh, yeah. I barely remember it.
All right.
Okay.
But I digress. So, sorry.
So, any other questions on this? Otherwise, Rex already kind of transitioned into the Park and Rec Department report. So any questions on the corp or anything? Okay, so we'll just kind of do our homework for next time, take some notes, and we'll discuss further in the next meeting. All right.
Yep.
So Park and Rec, Forestry Department report.
Yeah, so we touched on a couple items here already, just going down the list. We just finished last week, Public Works and Park and Rec staff worked together and we installed a 20 by 30 concrete slab in Ashwaubenon. That's going to be the base for the bands to play for the food truck rally. That was a concern that a number of bands had last year, which we knew was going to wind up happening. Is that obviously bands don't like to set up on uneven ground, i.e. grass. Number one, it doesn't hold the instruments very well, and number two, if there's dew or if it's wet at all, there could be electrical issues with the equipment and safety issues. So we installed a concrete slab, which can also be used by special event groups and things like that for different special events that we have out there. We just wound up sodding that yesterday, and hopefully it'll, well, we got it fenced off, and it'll be in use for the food truck rally coming up on Thursday night. On Thursday, June 10th, we're going to have a ribbon cutting. The Ashwaubenon Lions in 2019 gave us a wonderful donation to purchase what's called a Moby mat, and that's a handicapped accessible mat that's got a couple wings on it that go out so that people that have mobility challenges can go with their families. They can get down to the lake and, you know, they can go out on these wings and basically park themselves there while their kids are on beach towels or whatever, and they can enjoy the lake amenities. So that was a donation, $8,000 donation actually from the Ashwaubenon Lions Club. And we're going to be having a ribbon cutting on Thursday the 10th. I don't have a specific time for that yet. We're getting some press releases ready to go. But any of the park board members are welcome to attend that. So that should be kind of fun. We'll get the word out for everybody. Getting ready for the summer. Obviously, we're only a couple weeks away before the park programs open up. We're pretty much doing everything this summer that we normally do. The only thing that's not happening is the Ashwaubenon Blast. That was a decision by the Ashwaubenon Alumni Association to hold off on that one more year, just with the larger numbers and not knowing what's going to wind up happening. Not saying it was the right or wrong decision, just that it's been pushed to 2022. That's really the only thing that's not happening this year for us. And we are planning an installation of some butterfly gardens on the backside of the Ashwaubenon Sports Complex. This was an idea that was brought up by one of our park maintenance crew, who was a landscape foreman for a number of years. And with the trail that we've going on back there, what we're going to do, we think it's a real good use of that space. We're going to basically get rid of the sod. We're going to brown all the sod, and then we'll till it up. And then in the fall, it's a fall seeding, we'll have different perennial plants that'll be put in, seed. So we'll seed some different areas. So it's going to be butterfly plants and honeybee plants. And so those areas then will probably take 2 years to fully come to life, per se, for what we want them to look like. But we're kind of prepping the area for that, or that'll be happening coming up pretty soon for the summer. It's because we have to kill the grass, till it up once it starts to dry out, and prep it for the seeding.
Rex, do you know if there's going to be any milkweed plants in there?
There are.
Okay,
There are, for the
Good.
monarchs, yep.
good.
Yep. That's part of the overall seed mix that we're going to be getting. I'll entertain any questions on recreation programs. The rummage sale took place. Rookie T-ball is going to be starting up pretty soon. I mean, we've got golf classes at Highland Ridge. We never stopped doing, and we still have a number of senior citizen programs that are happening. Woodside senior communities are still sponsoring a number of programs with us, and some really good partnerships going on there. If you haven't seen this, it's under aquatics. It really should be under recreation. I think it's under aquatics only because our aquatic coordinator is in charge of it. Tales on the Trails. What a great idea this is. So basically, you're taking a children's book, you're blowing up pictures from the children's book. We're taking the rummage sale sign, the wire sections. We're taking the poster board, we're putting them on those wire sections, and then parents are taking their kids through Sherwood Forest, reading the story along the trail. And you can do, I think the one we have right now is 3 billy goats gruff, and then there's if you look hard enough under one or two of the bridges way back there, there's actual little troll. So there's some fun, there's some really neat things going on with that. And I don't know what there's a couple more stories. So we're going to keep the story up for a month, and then we're going to change it out. But that was Melody's idea. Melody's our aquatic coordinator. So that's a really neat program. And we've gotten a really nice response from that. A lot of people have talked about it, and different mom Facebook groups have talked about it back and forth about, hey, check this out, because it's something new. And it's working out really well. I think one of them might be we're going on a bear hunt. I don't know if anyone knows that story at all, where you're walking through the woods looking for the bear. I mean, what a perfect setting to do something like that. So some fun ideas that Mel has come up with for the aquatics. I mentioned day camp before. David's in charge of our day camp program. We're easily up to over 50 for I think every week of day camp this year. Our max is around 55. I'm pretty sure we're sold out on a number of weeks already.
Yes, we are.
So that is almost back, if not is back to normal from what it was pre-COVID. So we're happy with that. We're having that at Valley View. School district property, we're still wearing masks in Valley View. School inside, as soon as we're outside though, we can have the kids take them off. So both staff and kids are still going to be required to wear masks in the school. But I think that, from what I heard, might be ending this summer. So Aquatics, the lake is being filled. We turned on the fire hose basically on Monday, and it's being filled right now. It takes 8 days, roughly, give or take, maybe 9, depending upon how windy it is, to fill the lake. 3.5 million gallons. So that's being filled right now. Melody's done a really good job of doing lifeguard recruitment. You've probably read in the paper that some of the area pools are really struggling to find lifeguards, to find staff. I want to knock on wood. We are not in the same boat as them. We have our swim lesson program, which will be back in operation as normal this summer. That is doing fine. We have plenty of staff there, and really we're only a couple people short at the lake, but it really won't affect operations at all. That just means that instead of getting like 28 hours, the staff will be assigned, 32 hours, that type of thing. We're doing well there. I know I've had a number of questions from people on staffing, and I think Mel's done a great job of offering multiple lifeguard training classes throughout the year, and just having a personal relationship with a lot of the coaches and swim club people that are out there to continually recruit people and get them trained, because it is a 27-hour course just to get lifeguard training, and then you're talking dozens of additional hours and in additional training specifically for the lake or the pool. So there's a lot of time commitment involved for those kids, and we're in pretty good shape. Forestry, again, it's all about EAB right now. The contractor should be working very shortly on starting the removal of the EAB trees that are all marked. As a reminder, it's going to be from Highway 41 to the east, basically to the Fox River is the area. In 2022, it'll be Highway 41 to the west. But this year it'll be Highway 41 to the east, with quite a few removals also at Argonne Park and in Ashwaubenon. There's actually a separate contract to do some of those. Questions on anything going on that is either on the sheet or that we haven't had a chance to talk about yet?
No, nothing. Anything for the items for next agenda? Anybody other than what we've got going on as far as the corp plan? Food truck rally Thursday night. Who's the entertainment?
The blue cheese combo. So I'm just kind of looking at the general age of everybody here, and you're going to be happy to hear that it's going to be 80s pop. So it probably will be very familiar to a lot of us, some of the fun stuff that they'll be playing. 80s and 90s pop, the blue cheese combo, which it looks like from their picture, it looks like a couple members from the band RPM, if anyone's familiar with that particular band. So they've kind of made a sub band, like a smaller band. That's more affordable. Blue cheese combo, and that's the stuff that they're paying. RPM deserves all the money. I mean, they're a good band, but because it's a larger band, it's also, you need to have a larger venue to be able to pay the cost of the band. So the blue cheese combo is 3 people, and then it should be really fun. I've heard a lot of good things about them. And 8 food trucks.
8.
That's a lot of food trucks.
Come hungry.
That's a lot of, so I'm hoping that the weather holds off, that the weather is awesome, because we'll the challenge is, getting enough people there to make sure the vendors are happy, that it's worthwhile for them to pay to be there and set up. But we've got a good variety of food.
It's supposed to be in the 80s on Thursday, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is.
Summer's getting here. It'll be here Thursday. It'll leave Friday.
It is, and weather is going to be, the weather forecast has not been settled quite yet. It's going to be in the 80s, but potential, showers or storms on different days. But out of any of the days this week, I say I'm going to jinx myself, and I don't want to do that. Thursday looks like the best day. So the best chance for them to go right over us, and miss us. So. Yeah, please stop by. Sue?
I just want to see if you want to introduce Donovan to the board, with him being a new one.
Yes, and we've got another new park board member who is replacing Justin Miner, who has resigned. Donovan, if you want to tell a little bit about yourself and, what your background is and welcome aboard.
Sure, thank you. I'm Donovan Miller. I live on Avondale Drive. We've been there for 6 years. Moved here from Freedom. I'm a staff accountant at the Aging and Disability Resource Center. I am the single A president for AYB baseball. I coach single A, double A, tournament for 8U, tournament for 10U, and I sleep rarely. What else can I say? So I have 2 boys and a couple dogs and a wife that I have to entertain when I'm not.
On Avondale, are you on the east or west side of Avondale, or of Pioneer?
I am on the west side of Pioneer. I am on the south side. I have Dutchman Street behind
So
me.
the Conservancy is in your backyard?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
gotcha.
So, frequently, as I said earlier, use Ashwaubenon Park 8 days a week. So,
Awesome.
yeah,
Welcome.
thank you.
Thank you for being part of our group.
No problem. My pleasure.
Yeah, and we'll see you in the fall.
If you are, no doubt. If you come down and get a something from the food trucks, you can come watch us play baseball.
Well, there you go.
We'll be there. So I'll be on one of the fields from the late game. So if you want to hear me yell at kids, come on down.
There you go.
All right, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thanks, everyone.
We are adjourned.
You have a correction to make.
This conference is no longer being recorded.
It wasn't Captain Caboose, it was Colonel Caboose, played by Russ Weidel at WV.
Do you guys need a bunch of trees yet? Like, are you in need of seedlings and stuff, or?
Colonel.